The following program does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the staff, management, or ownership of this station.
The following pre-recorded program is brought to you by Vitruvian, a Texas-based registered investment advisor.
Now, let the uprising begin.
There are only two genders, and one of them is right here. It's the box that rocks. This is the Angela Box Show on AM 1070 and FM 103.3. The Answer.
Hello, hello, hello. Once again, all my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there. You're listening to the Angela Box Show. I'm here. Yes, leftists, I'm back. You can't get rid of me. I'm like a cockroach, man. You swat me. You're like, is she gone? Is she gone? Nope. She comes back stronger than ever. And I bring all my friends. So, this week's show, as per usual, there's a million things going on. I'll probably get to like 2 subjects. But I do want to start today, and I want to give the seed-turtle killing plastic straw. Because this Aurora, Colorado situation, Aurora, Colorado is a microcosm to what is going on in different pockets of the country, where the Democrats, or the left, or the open borders, globalists, Mayorkas, Harris, etc., have tried to completely transform smaller communities in the United States. And it's happening all over. So Aurora, Colorado has been has had a spotlight on it. And I want to give the seed-turtle killing plastic straw this week to ABC News' Martha Raddatz. Now, Martha Raddatz thinks she's smart, just like all the other deep state globalist media types. And on a side note on that, I was on Isaiah's show last night. And I love the crew, love everyone I encounter on the show. This is not to take away from anything that anyone is doing, but I'm always kind of amazed at the topics that they want me to discuss, because it's like you can do any just base level of knowledge or research and understand that, like, the propaganda you're trying to sell is just not what's happening. So the topic last night was the misinformation. I swear to God, when I hear that word, misinformation, I'm like, that to me is a dog whistle for the left, just like January 6th, just like Save Our Democracy, just like Russia. These are all dog whistles. So when they say mis or disinformation, I'm like, oh, so basically you're telling me it's true. What they wanted to talk about last night was this misinformation, disinformation that FEMA is like stopping supplies from getting to people, that they're doing a terrible job, that they're doing all this. And I'm like, whoa, guys. I'm old enough to remember when journalists would actually, go on the ground, interview these witnesses, as opposed to citizen journalists like uploading their own experiences to X and saying, I'm on the ground. FEMA is stopping supplies from getting to us. FEMA is confiscating private donations. FEMA is sending their helicopters to do roto runs to destroy supplies that they can't take control of. FEMA is not rescuing people. I mean, like, these are the receipts that people are providing. And again, I'm old enough to remember when journalists would actually go and interview those people, as opposed to just repeating the same ridiculous talking points that the regime is feeding them. Like, it's amazing to me, the propaganda that comes out from the Biden-Harris administration. And then the media is like, oh, okay, we're just, Biden says that FEMA's doing a great job, and Kamala Harris says that she's doing a great job, so nothing to see here. It's shocking to me. So I was talking about that whole thing and how, the militias, the right-wing militias are going and attacking FEMA. And you know what's crazy, guys, is that the media ran with that story for like a day. But what's great about X, again, and this is why they want to shut it down, is because people fact-check that within seconds. And they're like, actually, it wasn't a bunch of right-wing militias, just like there was no right-wing Nazis in the Trump boat parade last week. Those are leftist agitators cosplaying as Nazis, pretending they're Trump supporters, and the real Trump supporters are like, no, these are leftists, this is what they do. So just like that, it's very easily shot down on X within seconds. So this mis and disinformation that there was these right-wing militias was complete garbage. It was one guy who was mad. One guy who was mad and was threatening FEMA workers. Now, look, let us stipulate, no one should be threatening anybody, period, at the end, okay? But it goes without saying also that the federal government's response to FEMA, just like everything else with this administration, you have one of two options here. The first option is that they are grossly incompetent and they are negligent, okay? The other option, and I think the more obvious option, is that this is purposeful. And people like David Axelrod last week let the cat out of the bag and said, yeah, it sure would be a shame if all those Trump voters in Appalachia and in the mountains couldn't get to the polls. Our voters should be fine, though. I mean, like, come on, man. These are the words out of their mouth. Anyway, this is a big, long way of saying that Martha Raddatz, ABC News, part of the problem here. So we have these pockets of American society that have now been infiltrated, that have now been overrun by illegal aliens. Springfield, Ohio, a community of 50,000 that now has 20,000 essentially illegal Haitian migrants. And, you know, another one of the things the fake news likes to say is, oh, these are asylum seekers. Okay, guys, let me explain this to you again. They've literally created an app where the, quote, asylum seekers / illegal aliens can go on this app, download this app, and basically make something up and then cut to the front of the line. They're illegal aliens, guys. They're just like all the others, okay? So the Springfield, Ohio thing, where we've got Haitian migrants who have a vastly different culture than the vast majority of Americans who do, in fact, eat pets. It's part of their voodoo rituals. It's part of their culture. This is not misinformation. These things are happening on the ground with people bringing receipts. And then at the same time, you have this Aurora, Colorado situation where there's these pockets of apartment complexes, several apartment complexes, that have been taken over by violent Venezuelan gangs. Tren de Agua is what they're called. So they're like, you know, MS-13's boo-boos. They're like sister gangs or something. They're both wildly violent, wildly demonic, horrible, horrible human beings. Like, they literally emptied all their prisons and sent these people to us. That is what has gone on. So, in Aurora, Colorado, which again used to be a very safe suburb, think of it like Katy, but a smaller version of Katy, okay? Imagine Katy or Cypress if the Biden administration just decided to let loose, or maybe Pearland is a better size representation. I think Pearland's smaller than Katy. I'm not a Texas native. Corey, is Pearland smaller than Katy? Population-wise, what would you think? No? He's like, no. You don't know what you're talking about. All right, a smaller than Katy thing. So the Biden administration floods the zone with all these illegal aliens, all right? And then they set up shop in all these apartment complexes. They're taking them over. They are extorting the residents. They are scaring them. They are beating up the property managers. And Martha Raddatz has the stones. Again, this is how the Overton window has shifted, that this is now acceptable behavior. Oh, she says to J.D. Vance, she goes, well, you know, there's only a handful of apartment complexes that have been taken over by violent Venezuelan gangs. So, you know, you're pushing misinformation. And J.D. Vance goes, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful? And we're supposed to say that's okay. I don't care if it's one. If it's one apartment complex that has been taken over by violent Venezuelan gangs, because here's the dirty little secret that the Democrats won't tell you. These apartment complexes are mostly low-income people or people who don't have the ability to just get up and move, all right? Because it costs a lot of money to move. It's a pain in the butt to move, and it costs a lot of money. And these apartment complexes are being inhabited by people who are on the lower income levels, which used to be, you know, valuable Democrat voters. But because these people are not waking up And they're like, we're not voting for these people. And oh, by the way, we're all getting off the Democrat plantation. Black, white, Hispanic, we're all getting off. Like, we see the game now. We know what you people have been doing. And you've been doing it for 60 years. Now, Martha Raddatz and the media is like, well, it's just not that big of a deal, and you're lying about it, J.D. Vance. It's like, wow. So this is how much the media is despised and hated by the American people. It's like, you don't hate the media enough. This woman says with a straight face, it's only a handful of apartment complexes that have been taken over. So we should just, stop talking about it. It is wild. It is wild, wild, wild. Next segment, we've got Brandon Waltens coming up from Texas Scorecard. He is going to break down the Cruz and Allred debate, and we're probably going to get to some national stuff too. So we will be right back with that. You're listening to the Angela Box Show. I'll be right back.
Hey, fellow patriots and filthy leftist stalkers. It's Angela Box on AM 1070 and FM 103.3. The Answer.
Welcome back to the Angela Box Show. I have on the line a man who is making waves all throughout Texas because of the fantastic website he's a part of, TexasScorecard.com. I've got Brandon Waltens, who's one of their main contributors. And I wanted to bring Brandon on to discuss the Cruz Allred debate that I didn't even know was happening, but evidently happened the other night. Welcome to the show, Brandon Waltens.
Yes, thank you for having me, Angela.
So, yeah, I was getting texts, and they're like, oh, are you watching the debate? I'm like, what debate? And it turns out there was a debate between Cruz and Allred that no one heard about because the media didn't report it. Probably, it's like, well, they probably realized they did not want another J.D. Vance, Tim Walz situation on their hands. So they're like, let's keep this on the down low. But what's your take on the whole spectacle that we witnessed?
That was kind of interesting. I had a lot of people tell me, last night too, wow, there was a debate on. So I guess they didn't necessarily want too many eyes on it. And if you're team Colin Allred, you would understand why. I think that Ted Cruz clearly won the debate with him last night. They ranged on, a number of issues that you expect them to cover, like the border, like the economy. Of course, moderators couldn't help but ask about January 6th and press Ted Cruz on abortion, a number of those sort of issues that you would expect. But all throughout, Ted Cruz, you forget, he's certainly been here before, right? I mean, whatever you think about him, he certainly he knows his way around a debate. And Colin Allred was somebody who looked, almost like he was, picked up off the street and thrown on there. I mean, in the way that he seemed unprepared, he seemed nervous, and he just kept sort of reiterating some of the same talking points.
Yeah, that's the problem that I think Democrats have today, is because they don't. The base of their party is so insane that they've really got to thread a very small needle here. They have to keep them happy. But at the same time, they know deep down in their guts that these policies are just not good for the American people, whether it's open borders, whether it's abortion up to 9 months, whether it's, throwing red meat to the Democrats about January 6th or saving democracy or whatever. Like, they really can't tell the truth on what their policies are. And I agree with you that Colin did seem nervous. He was, speaking in platitudes, and it's not a fair fight when you have to go up against Ted Cruz. I like to see the Ted Cruz we saw in this debate, because when he's less preachy, when he's less like, for lack of a word, less Jesus-y, like, I think he's extremely effective. Like, you can be a man of faith and also be a man of substance, and I think that's the Ted Cruz we saw.
No, certainly. And, I think it was interesting to see, specifically, I'll point to one issue that's been a big focus of the campaign, but there's been a lot of campaign ads now from both sides about, letting girls in boys' sports and bathrooms and radical gender ideology that we've seen play out. That's been the focus of a lot of the campaign ads. You even saw Colin Allred, I think last week, put out an ad where he said, no, I don't want boys and girls sports. he was pressed on the issue. I was glad that moderators pressed him on this last night. He sort of gave multiple answers. On one hand, he said, well, we don't want to see boys and girls sports. That's ridiculous. And then he'd say, well, but I don't want people to be discriminated. And so he voted against legislation that would have protected girls sports. And so, you know, this is the position, though, that the Democrats are in, where they have to, on one hand, you know, there's some things like this, like the radical gender stuff, I think that Republicans and Democrats, if you just honestly polled them, I think largely reject. And yet there is that small fringe that the Democrat plays to on these issues. And so, you know, people like Colin Allred and other Democrats are sort of forced to straddle this fine line.
Yeah, it's funny to watch as a, you know, if you're an anthropologist or kind of an observer of political things. People talk about the Overton window, and the Overton window, which basically is, as a society, what do we find acceptable or not acceptable? And it's shifted so far to the left of what is deemed normal, acceptable, to where it's now just unrecognizable. And people are starting to finally, you know, I think they got greedy during COVID, trying to get rid of one guy, and we started opening our eyes to what these people really are all about, which is total control and lying to the people. But they got so greedy during COVID, where they said that ivermectin and HQ were fake and they're going to kill you, that now people are starting to wake up. And so when the Democrats want to push these radical ideas, people are like, hang on a minute, this isn't about discrimination. This is about basic biological objective differences. The Democrats now are having to, you know, just blatantly bald-faced lie to their constituents. And again, that's why they're saying they'll go back to things like we have to save democracy, or they talk about January 6th, because those are those red meat dog whistles. The Democrats are like, oh, okay, now they're talking about January 6th, I can get behind this. It's wild to see.
It's wild, and I don't think it plays well with most voters, right? I mean, I know that the far left Democrats still love to talk about things like January 6th every day and talk about some of these issues. But most people are concerned about what's happening at the southern border. They're concerned about what's happening in the economy, and they're looking at people like Kamala Harris and, by extension, Colin Allred, these Democratic candidates. Okay, you're in charge now. And yet we have all these issues, and instead of even addressing them, they're choosing to instead talk about these silly social experiments.
Total silly social issues. I'm sure you saw this X post that I think Libs of TikTok or Gays Against Groomers reposted about this sad, overweight, 21-year-old male who's non-binary or whatever his pronouns are. I don't care. He's like, if you had one question for Donald Trump, what would it be? And he's like, do you see me as a human being? It's like, would you just, and the responses were great because people were like, cut this out. Like, this is so stupid. We're so done with this. And I think that they've pushed the envelope so far that the American people have thrown their hands up and they're like, I don't care what issues we have with Trump, what issues we have with maybe Cruz being a little hokey sometimes or a little too, my word, thumpery. Like, we can't have Colin Allred in the Senate. We can't have Kamala Harris as President of the United States. No, we're done.
Exactly. And I think that people know that the stakes are so high. I mean, it's wild. We're now, less than 3 weeks away. Early voting just around the corner here in Texas. This is an important election. Every time they say it's the most important election, but it really does feel like that this time.
Yeah, I was talking to someone yesterday actually, and she was a lady who's helping my fiance and I out with this stuff we're getting ready to buy for this new condo, and she said, I don't know, there's this feeling that I get like that everyone's just really on edge, and they feel like that this might be like this is the most doom and gloom so many people have thought. It's like, if we don't get this right, like, we are really, really screwed. And tell me if you think that if they somehow get Senator Kneepads over the finish line and she's president of the United States, which God help us all, but if that happens, do you think that's a situation where we enter into a like a statewide decision, like we're like, okay, we're out? Like, do you think the Texas secession movement, if she gets in, do you think that could pick up steam?
Look, I don't know, but I do know that, certainly in Texas there are a lot of things the state can do and has done on certain levels to push back against the federal government. But, it's hard to imagine with the trajectory that we've been in, and especially with Kamala Harris's policies, Texas and some other conservative states, some other red states, are going to really need to start fighting back.
Yeah, it really is setting up for another civil war, which I think is what the left wants. I mean, they want Americans fighting Americans, as opposed to realizing that, especially on immigration, this is a 70 to 80% issue. Like, the American people want this clamped down and done. But when they try and divide us on stupid social issues or pronouns or race or gender, it is mind-numbing. But the good news is, the polling seems to suggest that Trump is in an extremely good position. Certainly in Texas, I think he's going to win by probably at least 7, which is more than he did in 2020. But, if Kamala Harris is only up by 1 in the national polls, that means they're in big, big trouble, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can compare what the polls look like now versus what they looked like ahead of the 2020 election and in 2016, and Trump is in a better position now than really he was in either of those 2 elections.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but the folks need to go out and vote, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go out and vote. Brandon, how can people follow what you're doing and find out everything about Texas Scorecard?
Yes, we're at TexasScorecard.com. You can follow us there. You can sign up for our Texas Meta email, and I'm on X, Twitter, at @Waltens.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to you soon. Good to talk to you, Brandon.
Thank you.
All right, you're listening to The Angela Box Show. We'll be right back.
Fighting for the conservative cause. It's the box that rocks. Angela Box on AM 1070 and FM 103.3. The Answer.
All right, so a little bit more about this illegal immigration thing, because this is, next to the economy, the second most important issue for the American people. As much as the left wants to make it abortion up to 9 months and, January 6th and saving democracy, it isn't flying. Because the American people aren't stupid, and they're like, we actually care about securing our border and, being able to put food on the table for our families. We don't care these social issues that you're trying to, wedge in between us. We're just like, nah, it's not working anymore. Like, the things they've done that worked in the past to pit, black against white, or black against Hispanic, or Asian against white, or male against female, or gay against straight. Like, it's not working. So the management company that manages a bunch of these apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado, is out of New York. So they've got people, local people on the ground, and it is heartbreaking to see these videos and pictures of this apartment manager that's gotten beaten in within an inch of his life, because he goes into this apartment to basically make it ready for the next, or to rent it out as a 3-bedroom apartment, and he encounters just this group of like 10 men that are just living there, just squatters, illegal aliens, Venezuelan, Tren de Agua, and these guys offer him a $500 bribe to basically look the other way, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that, and then they beat him within an inch of his life. And, I live in an apartment right now, and I love my apartment manager. She's been so good to me, and I love the company that kind of took over my building, because it was getting, kind of not great. And they really kind of cleaned it up and turned it around and, got rid of the weed smoking in the stairways, which was nice. And anyway, so it just, I can imagine, what if that was her? What if it was her getting beat up by violent Venezuelan gang members? No, it would not fly. So the management company, or the owners of these complexes, are like, yeah, this is 100% happening. It's not fake news. It's not misinformation. This has happened in a number of our buildings. And guess what? We reached out to the Democrat governor, Jared Polis. He won't do anything. Do you know why? Because he's a Democrat, and Democrats need illegal aliens in the country for one of two reasons. They need them to destabilize the country. They need them as their foot soldiers, and they need to use them as bodies in order to vote in this election and other elections. So it's in totally unrelated news, we've got the DOJ, the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland's group, that is suing Virginia and suing other states, but Virginia this week, suing Virginia because Virginia is trying to clean up their voter rolls. It's trying to get rid of dead voters and non-citizen voters. They are literally going in and suing them to stop them from doing that. Hello, is this thing on? So they need the illegal aliens. They need the bodies. So when they mail out those ballots, they'll have a body to account for that ballot. You see how the scheme works? And we've got in Arizona and in Michigan, there's all kinds. Michigan, you guys, in Michigan, they've got a scheme going on where people are basically, what is it? No, it's Arizona, where this one election integrity group, like, just started looking at the voter rolls, looking at the addresses, and literally people, ghost voters is what they're called. They're registered to abortion clinics and to the Arizona Diamondbacks Stadium and to high schools and to, gyms, things that are not residences. I mean, this is what the Democrats are doing, you guys, and it's happening all over the country. So the Department of Justice knows that the jig is about to be up. And if we can get Trump in there, it's like, just hang on, America, hang on, and vote like your life depends on it, because the country's life really does depend on it. If we can get Trump in there, and I'm not going to get ahead of my skis here. Yes, the polling looks good. Yes, he's ahead of where he was in 16 and 20 by a lot, actually. But we cannot be lackadaisical or take anything for granted. We know what the deep state is about, and we know what they're going to do to stop Trump. So if we can get Trump in there, the next phase is going to be congressional hearings on things like the open border situation, what the Biden administration did, what the Russia collusion hoax, the opening the books on the 2020 election. Because here's the thing, and I keep saying this, and I will continue to say it until I don't have to say it anymore. There's only one party that doesn't want to do forensic audits of elections, and that's the Democrats. In 2020, when the polls had Joe Biden beating Trump by like 6 or 7 points, just like they had Hillary Clinton beating Trump by 6 or 7 points. See, here's what happened in 2016. They didn't expect that the cheating that they already set up with the Voldemort machines and the fake ballots. They did not expect Trump to overcome that with turnout, but he did. They thought they had this in the bag. So on election night of 2016, they were truly shocked. So in 2020, again, they had Biden up by 7, same amount that they had Clinton up by. And then what happened at 10:30 at night on election night 2020? They shut everything down because Trump was ahead in all those swing states, and he was ahead by a lot. In some of the swing states, he was ahead by 150, 200,000 votes. And they were like, ruh-roh, this is getting away from us. We've got to shut it down. And so what did they do? They came up with excuses as to why all the swing states needed to be shut down, to make the polls match the mail-in ballot drops that they did at 1:30, 2:30 at night. 98% of those ballots went for Joe Biden. And when you woke up in the morning on the day after the election, you went to bed thinking Trump had this in the bag, and we're like, oh, thank God. And then you woke up and, wait, what? Biden all of a sudden is ahead? But wait, you shut everything down. Like, where are these ballots coming from? Where are these votes coming from? Why isn't the media why aren't they asking any questions? And then, of course, what they do, they shut us all down from talking about it because it's mis and disinformation. Again, if they tell you something is mis and disinformation, assume it's 100% true. We learned that during COVID, and we learned that during the election. So if we can get Trump in, I always come back, just like Trump does. He said the other day, he goes, I don't meander. What did he say? He goes, I can't remember what he said. He goes, weave. Yeah, he weaves back and forth. And I do the same thing. I'm a very tangential thinker, but I will come back to what I'm talking about. If we can get Trump in to office, we're going to be having a real book opening on all the things the deep state has been doing. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what they're scared of the most, because they cannot have that. Now, I mentioned last week that I have a mole, a Kamala mole, Senator Kneepads mole, who knows essentially, I think this person, without giving too much away, I think is in the security space. Not intelligence, but more like, boots on the ground, security, law enforcement, that type of thing. He has sources, more than one source, inside Senator Kneepads' campaign. And in the fourth segment, I'm going to get into what the mole has been telling me. But before I get to that, I think that what we saw this week with Bill Clinton totally shivving Kamala Harris in the back when it comes to illegal immigration. It wasn't a gaffe. It wasn't an accident. It's on purpose. And one of two things I think is going on here with Democrats wargaming. Bill Clinton went out the other day, and he looks like the crypt keeper now. It's like, tick-tock, Bill, tick-tock. You can only run from the Lord and your judgment for so long, and then it's eternity, and then your soul in hellfire damnation, but I digress. I mean, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, they're getting nervous. Anyway, I'm sorry, but the Clintons, man, they are just pure evil. Anyway, Bill Clinton goes out the other day, and he's talking to, I think, Georgia voters in some field, and he's like, oh, we gotta get her, gotta get her in. We need Kamala Harris, but out here in Georgia, there was a young woman who was killed, and this case, killed by an illegal alien. I think maybe if we had vetted him better, she might be alive today. It's like, wait, what? What? So of course he's talking about Laken Riley, the death of Laken Riley, who Biden couldn't even be bothered to come back from his, 42nd, 100th beach vacation from Rehoboth to even address the death of Laken Riley. And, of course, the reason she died, and, of course, the reason, like, Jocelyn Ungari died and all these other people are dead is because of illegal immigrants killing them. So him saying that this girl and other people would be alive if it weren't for these open border policies, complete repudiation of Biden-Harris. Like, complete stabbing in the back. Like, it's wild, guys. Now, if you're a listener of me and you're a listener of other conservative talk show hosts, you're very well informed. If you just watch CNN or MSNBC, you're an idiot at this point. And, James O'Keefe had a great undercover sting a couple of weeks ago. O'Keefe Media Group, OMG Media. Some MSNBC producer was on a date, on a Bumble date. You'd think at this point these people would be wise to what they're doing. They're like totally setting them up on online dating sites, but whatever. So this MSNBC producer basically said that they are purposefully dumbing down their viewers. Like, their viewers have gotten dumber over the years because the things they tell them are just lies. And the lies of omission, lies of commission. Here's a big lie of omission and a real big divide when it comes to conservatives and liberals. There was a recent poll done by Skeptic Research Center, and it found that liberal and very liberal people think that the Biden-Harris immigration crisis, that only about 4 million illegals have come in, which is still far too many. That's how many they think. Conservatives and very conservative thinks it's 9 million, so we're far better informed. Guess what the real number is? 10 million. Now, I still think that's on the low, and I think it's closer to 15 million because we don't count the gotaways, and that's millions and millions of them. But it just goes to show you once again, who are the informed voters? It's the conservatives. It's people that listen to shows like this. All right, I'm going to get into what the mole is telling me when we get back. You're listening to the Angela Box Show. Be right back.
You've tuned into the right place for conservatism. It's the box that rocks. This is the Angela Box Show on AM 1070 and FM 103.3. The Answer.
Okay, before I get to what the mole is telling me, because it's a lot of the things he has said over the past couple weeks have played out. Like, a week later, you'll see it pop up in the news. So I'm like, all right, this guy's got some contacts on the inside there. Like, he doesn't have any reason to lie to me, and he's been, very circumspect and whatever. But before I get to that, let me lay out this absolutely, completely Hail Mary racist crap that the Harris campaign is throwing. It's okay. Here, let me set this up. Black men are abandoning the Democrat Party in droves more than any other minority group, maybe minus Hispanics. Hispanics, Trump's got an edge. It's close, but I think he's got like a 4-point edge right now with Hispanics, which is a huge swing than what they used to be voting for. And it goes to show you once again, it's like people who are here legally, people who are people of faith, the Hispanic community, like, why do you think just because someone's Hispanic that they would want their schools flooded with illegal aliens and their communities flooded with illegals and on all the crime and danger that brings? Like, how racist are these Democrats? Like, very racist. And here's Exhibit B, okay? So black men, minus Hispanics, are the greatest group that are fleeing the Democrat Party. So send her to Kneepads because she's really smart. And she's the most accomplished person to ever run for president, even though she plagiarizes half her book and she repeats the same teleprompter speech every single rally. And when she goes off prompter, she sounds like a cackling drunk. Yeah, that lady. Anyway, Senator Kneepads is it's just coincidentally she trotted out a new what's the word I'm looking for? A new opportunity agenda for black men. So let me read this to you, okay? And let's just racist much it. Okay, let's see. Provide 1 million loans that are fully forgivable, up to $20,000 for black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. So they're trying to see they're threading the needle here because they realize that they can't just say, okay, this is just for black men, because if they do that, that's wildly illegal. Civil Rights Act 1965, equal opportunity. You can't do that, okay? You can't say this is only for black people. Like you cannot do that, okay? You have to make it on some other qualification. Okay, so she said black entrepreneurs, and capital black, of course, and others to start a business. It's side note. I mean, so can someone look this up for me? When people say white people, okay, just imagine if the word white was inserted in here. Let me just read this and read it if white people were the people she was targeting here. Okay. Kamala Harris will create an opportunity agenda for white men. Can you imagine the heads that would explode? Anyway, is the word white capitalized like the word black is capitalized now? I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, let me continue with support education, training, and mentorship programs that lead to good paying jobs for black men, including pathways to become teachers. Oh, that's just what we need. More leftist teachers. Yeah, sounds great. Listen to this. This is so random. Protect cryptocurrency investments so black, capital B, men who make them know their money is safe. How is Kamala Harris going to do that? The woman cannot string two sentences together. How? These are just gossamer dumb things. Okay. Launch a national health initiative focused on the illnesses that disproportionately impact capital black men. And here's the coup de grace. Legalize recreational marijuana to create opportunities for black Americans to succeed in this new industry. So basically, what Kamala Harris is saying is that black men love to smoke weed, and because all black men love to smoke weed, we're going to make sure it's legalized so black men can smoke weed legally. That's what she's saying. So it is a real Hail Mary pass. And I'm telling you, you gotta try and make me understand on what planet could telling black people that you're going to make their lives better by making pot legal is not like a completely racist thing to say. Like, anyway, it's remarkable, the Hail Marys that they're doing now. Okay, let's get to what this mole is saying, because he's got some pretty interesting tea to drop. I'm not going to get into the Tim Walz allegations this week because I'm not sure if they are true. I think that they sound legit, these allegations that are swirling on X about him and a former student. There seem to be some pretty specific details that this person is providing, but until I've got more information, I'm going to kind of put that to the side there. But nothing would surprise me about Tim Waltz. I mean, no straight man runs around prancing on a stage doing jazz hands all the time. Like, I'm sorry, he's definitely he maybe has sampled a man or two in his day. I'm just saying. Okay, so here's what's going on. There is a civil war within the DNC, according to this mole, and the mole told me, I said, how are you getting this? And he goes, well, imagine back in the antebellum South, when the slaves would be kind of in the background, the house slaves would be in the background, and they would listen to everything that went on in the household, what the plantation, what the masters were saying, and all the drama going on within the household. That's kind of what these security guys are. They consider them house plants. They're just there. They don't even think of them as human beings. But what they don't count on is that most of them deeply care about the future of this country, and they can't stand what these people are and who these people are. So what this mole is saying is that his people, and by the way, Kamala Harris is like it's a 4-alarm fire to try and find out who's doing all this leaking. Because, of course, Axios has the story that Biden and Harris are at each other's throats, which is what my mole said last week, and that, Kamala Harris is a horrible human being, treats everyone terribly. Tim Waltz is completely traumatized by her. And so now Waltz is going to be, jumping on Team Joe as Joe tries to sabotage her in the last few weeks of the campaign, which is obviously what he's going to do because he's going to get his revenge over the people that pushed him out. You can guarantee he's going to do that. So my mole was borne out over this week's news droppings with the Axios report and others. Anyway, so this is what he said. The civil war in the DNC, it's turning physical now. 4 more weeks. This is last week. It's going to be embarrassing. I'm hearing that Obama has made the call. So obviously Obama is running this whole show. He's been talking to the brothers. He's like, hey, brothers, you got to get back on board and vote for Kamala. You got to do what I tell you to do. It's like, hey, Barry Soetoro, who may or may not have pleasured one Larry Sinclair in the back of a limo back in the day. Barry, it isn't 2008 anymore, okay? No one's running on your hope. You can't run on hope and change anymore. And trying to make a literal and political whore, Senator Kneepads, into Obama 2.0 isn't working. So Obama evidently has made the call, okay? Which I guess it means that the polling is going to start showing a tightening race. And again, I got this tea last week. So before the polls started to get closer, this is what this guy was saying. Obama's made the call. RCP is going to show that the race is tightening. Opinions vary on why this is happening, but it is utter chaos. One says it's to send her a message. Another says she has alienated everybody and they just won't cover for her anymore. I have a hard time believing they'll concede to Trump. God only knows what's going on. So then, this is their plan now. Waltz is now on Team Joe, and the goal is to not only for Kamala to lose, but to do it so badly she never considers raising her head again. That's their plan. Don't know what the DNC is going to do about all this. And this is interesting. This is all obvious by now, but, and this is about the Clinton remark about how Laken Riley would have been alive. But the Clinton gaffe wasn't that at all. It was intentional. I told you what they intend to do to her. I finally gleaned the second part of the plan. So they're going to destroy her, make sure she can't ever raise her head again. And the second part of the plan is to saddle Trump with either a civil war or a world war or both. So that's the deep state's plan, ladies and gentlemen, according to my mole and my source, which I think we all see that coming. But I think Trump and the American people are going to make this too big to rig, and they're not going to be able to do it. No, we're not doing it. I mean, they tried to put COVID back on us a couple months ago, and we're like, no, we're not doing it. And I really do think that we're just going to be like, no, we're done. We're all done with you people. We shall see. We shall see. All right, that is my time. You have been listening to The Angela Box Show. I will see you next week. Until next time, everybody, keep kicking ass and taking names. Peace!